Hi. Today I'd like to talk to you about a very important concept. I learned this from a mentor named Katya Williams, and she calls the process Unwind Your Mind. It's brilliant. So we've probably all heard about the ego, and we're familiar with that. I learned about it in philosophy class way back in university, where Freud created the id, the ego, and the superego. So basically, the ego is that part of us that always has something to say. And sometimes it agrees with us, sometimes it disagrees, sometimes it's very critical. Oftentimes, actually, it can be very critical. And its job is to continue with the beliefs that we have created. So when we go back to childhood and we think of being an open sponge, we take in everything that's around us, all the information, the sounds, the noises, the smells, the sense, everything. And we have experiences. And then what we do is we create a story based on an experience we've had. And then that story turns into a belief system because we think it over and over again. And it eventually turns into something that we think is truth. So the ego's job is to continue with our stories, is to keep our stories alive. So I'll give you an example. So if a child, let's say a very creative child, is at home and starts drawing with her new crayons, and she makes this beautiful, beautiful drawing of nature and her friends and her mom holding hands, and she's so happy with her drawing and she's so proud of herself, and she's just can't stop smiling and celebrating this beautiful artwork masterpiece that she's created. She goes and finds her mom, and she's so proud, and she wants to show her mom how good she did, and she brings her mom over to her drawing. And instead of being happy and proud and encouraging, her mom gets very mad at her, and she doesn't know why. And what happened is the child actually drew this beautiful piece of artwork on the wall, the painted wall that is in the living room. And the mom is mad because she thought the child would have known better not to draw on the walls, but a child being a child didn't think that way. And in her moment of joy and happiness and sharing this beautiful piece of artwork with her mom, got actually a lot of slack from her mom, got in trouble, got yelled at, and this seemingly positive experience now turned into a very, very negative experience for this child. So in those moments, this child could have said a whole bunch of different things to herself. She could have said something like, I'm bad. She could have said something like, I do things wrong. I can't do anything right. I'm always getting in trouble. I'm not allowed to be creative. I can't express myself the way I want to. She thinks of all these particular thoughts that she's not even conscious of. Well, what happens is these thoughts get in her mind, and then they become a story. So to a little girl who just got in trouble and doesn't necessarily always understand the bigger picture of, how expensive it is to paint a house and how hard it is to wash crayon off walls, she's not at that level where she understands that. But what she does understand is that in a moment when she was very excited and happy, all of a sudden she got in a lot of trouble. And she learned to squash that feeling of excitement. So now as an adult, this same little girl could be holding back from having a lot of fun and doing creative things in life because there's always that little fear of, I might get in trouble. I might not be able to do this. I might be doing this wrong. Maybe I'm not allowed. So without even necessarily knowing it and without even necessarily ever tracing it back to that incident of that little girl, this is what the adult version is now going through. And she feels maybe unexpressed. She feels she's not being her authentic self. She may feel that she's not stepping into her power. There's all kinds of different symptoms, let's say, of this that could be showing up in her life right now as an adult, that she doesn't even relate to this incident as a child. She could have even forgotten it. It could have been when she was so young that she doesn't even consciously remember it anymore. So why did I tell you that big example? It goes back to this ego mind. So now the ego is protecting this girl who's now a woman Every time she tries to do something creative, for instance, the ego's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. You're not really that artistic anyway, so maybe you should just put those pencils down. You don't even try. There's other people that are way more talented than you are. Like, there's all kinds of things that could be happening. This is just one example of so many different scenarios in life. So, what we do when we unwind our mind, this process that I recently learned about, is we go back into anything that is triggering for us. So, we get triggered in the moment about something that happens. So, let's say this woman now is in art school and she put in an assignment, and her teacher gave her bad grade. And all of a sudden now she feels crushed. She's angry. She doesn't understand. She wants to argue with him as to why she thinks she should have a better grade. Something happened and she's being triggered. And what we do with this process is we dig deeper as to what happened. How did it make us feel? How do we react when we feel that way? And ultimately, what stories do we create in our minds about ourselves? And it's these stories that we create in our minds that are not true, but we are carrying them within us as though they are true. And that's where our unhappiness stems from. That's where a lot of the challenges in our life come from. That's where we have a lot of moments where we question ourselves, where things just don't seem right, where we can easily get triggered, is because we're living life based on an assumptive belief about ourselves, such as, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. There's all kinds of different beliefs that all of us have. They could be different, they could be the same, but we've all developed something, started from childhood, and many of us still carry these beliefs into our adulthood. And the process that I'm talking about is actually uncovering what these underlying beliefs are so that we can work with them. So once you find out that you have a belief, let's say that I'm not worthy of love, doesn't necessarily always have to go back to the root of where you got that belief, because a lot of times things happen when we're babies and we don't even consciously remember. So that's not necessarily important. You do want to try and go back as far as you can in your memory bank. Well, you just want to find belief, and you can muscle test on these beliefs as well to see if this is correct for you or not. Once you find them, you unwind the story, you unwind your ego mind, you get to the root belief system that's causing you the results that you're having in your life right now that you don't want to be having. And then you have something to work with. Now you have something that you tangible that you can release. There's lots of different ways to release it as well. You can do it through meditation, theta healing. You can do tapping. You can do subconscious release technique. There's all kinds of different energy clearing techniques for releasing these stories that no longer serve us. Maybe when that little girl was young, that story served her of that she's not a good artist. So she stopped drawing on walls, and then she stopped getting in trouble. Right? So maybe she didn't differentiate that I can draw on paper, but not on walls. She may have come to the conclusion that I just shouldn't draw at all. So if you think of that example and you turn it into something that you're dealing with right now in your life, it's really, really important to dig deeper as to why do you feel triggered in a certain moment. Dig deeper, and it always stems, it's easy for us to point outward and say, well, you said this, so that's the problem. Or you acted in this way and that upset me. But I invite you to turn that back around to, why did I get upset when you said that? What is it inside me that caused me to react that way? And these are the kind of questions I invite you to ask, to get deep and dig deep into the core of what those limiting beliefs are, what that program is that the ego continues to run, just like a computer. That's all it is. The ego mind is like a computer system that's just doing its job. It's not good or bad, it's just what it is. And when we learn to unwind our minds and get to the root of it, then we have the magic, the liquid gold that we can work with, that we can finally realize this doesn't serve me anymore. I can release it and I can thank it for having served me in the past, but I no longer need it anymore, and it's free to go. So that's what I have to say about that. And thank you so much for watching. I know this was a bit of a longer video. If you have any questions, reach out to me. This is what I do. I help my clients get through whatever is blocking them to break through that glass ceiling that we all have to get to the other side and live a magical life. So thank you again and have a great day.